Well, brothers and sisters, my time is short. This is my last Sunday with you. It's been a privilege these last 2 years. Kind of like Jesus going down to Jerusalem. I'm not going down, I'm going up. We're to eastern Idaho to St. Anthony Driggs and Rexburg. But thank you for having me, as you'd say, breaking me in as a new priest. And I really have enjoyed my time with you, and please keep me in your prayers. Know I'll keep all of you in my prayers as well. In our gospel today, Jesus gives us a good guide for discernment. All of us in our own path, me as a priest, some of you as mothers and fathers, some of you who are young aren't quite sure yet what God's calling you to do. All of us, though, God's calling us in a particular way to love and serve Him. Putting Him first above everything else, that begins the difficulty. Keeping God first in everything we do, and then everything else seems to flow from that. We hear some, in a way, some very challenging words from Jesus today of Jesus saying, well, let the dead bury their dead. Jesus, my Father's dead. Let me go bury him first. And Jesus isn't saying, well, don't take care of your family, but he's saying, well, even in that, put me first, because I'll help you provide for, your family or whatever. Sometimes there's a temptation of, sometimes young men or people are called to be a priest, but, how am I going to take care of my family then? Or people to be married. We always have these excuses that come up, all these, even sometimes good things, taking care of family or, another things, a job, or we're worried about, are we going to make enough money for a family? But I've often found, and many others have too, it's amazing what happens when God's put first. Even if it seems like, what's going to happen here? We don't quite know the exact way forward. It's not all mapped out and planned out, step 1, 2, 3, but it's amazing how good things can come from that. I know in my own life, when I was first discerning seminary, in 2010, when I'd finally decided, praying with my family, many others, of okay, I'm going to join the seminary this year. I just graduated college. There's a temptation to think, why don't I wait another year just to think about it more? But after praying about it, my dad even saying, well, John, if you're serious about this, why wait? Go do it. Go for it. But literally, right when I had been accepted, it was August, I've been starting mid-August, all of a sudden the doctor called my mom, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was like, whoa. And all of a sudden, all these thoughts going through my mind, maybe I should hold off and stay home and help take care of my mom. And that would have been a good thing. No one would have criticized me for that, for staying home and taking care of my mom. And yet, in praying about it, with the family, my mom and dad, praying about it in private prayer, just talking about it, we realized in prayer, we felt like it'd be better if I went to the seminary. I could do more for my mom at the seminary, offering prayer, asking others to pray for her, doing the work of the Lord, than it would for me to stay home. There were plenty of other people at home to take care of my mom. And in hindsight, that actually was, the correct thing to do. God could have made either thing work, right? Either decision. But it was amazing how, even with going through all the chemo and the radiation, of how, and offering all that prayer, me not being there, offering up that sacrifice, it was amazing how even the doctors told my mom, a lot of the negative side effects that people normally undergo with chemo didn't affect her. We attributed that to prayer. Well, thanks be to God. That's a small example in my own life, but it's amazing what happens, though, even in the hard moments when you really bring things to prayer. God, what do you want me to do? When we put God first, it's amazing how God takes care of the other stuff. He takes care of our family, takes care of finances. We don't have to worry about things like that. Doesn't mean there's not difficulties. There's always difficulties, but when we keep the Lord first in everything, it's amazing how God can make a way out of no way. Sometimes it seems like there's no way. God can make a way out of no way. For ourselves this week, in our own lives, to even ask ourselves, where in our own lives, even in a small area, where am I not putting God first? Where is God inviting me to, hey, let me help you out here. Invite me into this area in your life. Doesn't mean magic, like, okay, Lord, I invite you in, and magic right away, things turn out perfect. But it's amazing that once when we really start putting God first, or inviting Him in areas in our life where maybe He's not a part of, doors start to open. Doors start to close that we're not supposed to go through, and doors start to open that we're supposed to go through. So I invite all of us, the Lord invites all of us today. St. Paul encourages us to really put the Lord first. To not get caught up in worldly things. Inevitably we do. But to walk in the power of the Spirit to overcome, whether it's illness, temptation, distractions, of taking more time to be at the Lord. That whole idea of that process of discernment, we really can begin to notice or to learn. Sometimes we make mistakes, so we ask for forgiveness. Of walking in the power of the Spirit in everything we do. We can begin to discern God's voice, what God's asking us to do from the world's voice. Sometimes what the world wants us to do is not necessarily bad or good, it's more neutral, but God has another plan for us. We can notice God's voice, discern, begin to notice the difference between God's voice, our own thoughts. We have our own emotions and our own desires in life, but to unite those with the Lord's. Jesus was resolutely firm of, even though he had to die, even though he said, Lord, if you will, let this chalice pass from me. Don't make me go through this, but not my will, but your will be done. For us to really be able to make that prayer. To distinguish between God's voice and the evil one's voice. The evil one sometimes puts other things in our life. It may not necessarily be bad, but is it the greatest good God's asking us to do? There's no magic. There's no easy solution. What am I supposed to do in life? And yet, there's many people who've gone before us. Many of you probably experienced in your own lives when we do what God asks us to do, it's freeing. We're free. It's something where we're at peace. Even extraordinary circumstances may be going on where it's kind of a pain, We might suffer a little bit, but it truly is, doing the will of God is truly free. It's peaceful, and we have a sense that the Lord's guiding us even though we don't know all the answers.